like 1. Okay, are we up and running?
Yep, good to go. We're live.
Okay, awesome. Hi, everybody. This is Luvly, and we're doing our next podcast on healers. I'm going to start off by apologizing. I cannot type in this Twitch channel tonight, so anything that I see, I will have to just go ahead and answer verbally. So, I can't even sign into it. It just keeps coming up with a Facebook thing, so I'm just not even going to mess around with it. It's making me very mad, but it's okay. If I see questions and stuff, I'll just pull them out and then we can answer them. And I'm going to try and do a little bit of a better job of watching the chat tonight than I have done. So hopefully I'll catch some good questions from folks. So the classes we're doing tonight, this is part 2 of our healer podcast. The classes tonight are healer, bard, warden, and friar. We did the first half on February 14th, and that was the cleric, druid, and shaman. I think you can view that on YouTube. Is there a link, Beeb, on the Herald for that if they want to watch that one?
Yeah, I'll put it in the Twitch chat.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, I wanted to say, before we get started on actually talking about this, we're down to just a few more class podcasts, and I wanted to thank everybody that volunteered to run these, the folks that have been streaming them for us. It's not always the same person, and of course the players that have taken their time and come out here and contributed and given us some insight and their own personal thoughts about it. Personally, I like getting player input with some new insights and different perspectives. I've learned a lot, and I just wanted to make sure I said thank you to everybody that everybody that stepped up and did this for us. So I'm going to get going with the introductions. We'll just start with the people in the order that they are in Vent. So if you could give us your name, the tune that you normally play. I know lots of you play lots of different tunes. A little bit about yourself, your history with the game, and the class that you're going to be talking about. So let's start at the top with Shileah.
Oh, great. Yes, I'm Shileah. I'm a EU player. I'm maining a heal warden. I mainly play 8-man, and sometimes I'm joining these, but not too often, I have to admit. And yeah, I've been playing the warden has been my very first character as well. It's been my main for a long time. Made a little break, but I'm back since a couple of years now, and before I made my break, wardens were not meant to heal a lot, but since I returned, they are like the main healing class in Hibernia now, and that makes me really happy because I really enjoy healing with the warden.
Oh, thank you. Carl, are you just helping out in here? Or did you want to introduce yourself as well? I'm skipping right over Beebs.
Sure, no problem. I'm Carl. I most of you know me in some way, form, or another. I typically play Bard or Warden. So I just thought I'd pop in. I originally thought I would be streaming, but Beeb's doing that, so I'm trying to run some Chapter 10 on Hib.
There you go. If you need Chapter 10 done in Hib, go join. Next up, we have Flik.
Hello, please call me Tom. I play kind of whatever, usually in 8-mans, here today representing the Warden class. Yep.
Gaven, you're up.
Hey everybody, I'm Gaven, probably most well known on the Valk Gavena, recently hit rank 12, and also have a Thane of a different name, a nice Thane, and more recently I've been playing quite a bit of Tick on Alb, but today I'll be representing healer, of which I have, I believe, an 11L3, 11L4 healer.
Oh, Grat's on Realm rank 12.
Thank you, Kyle.
Hadley.
Hi, I'm Hads. I started the game back when it started. I started on Hib. I played a Bard and a Druid. And I moved over to the Perspiril server, and I played Cleric mostly. And then I moved over to Mid about 5-6 years ago, and been here since. And I play mostly a healer. Play other tunes as well, but just mostly healer.
I see you all the time.
I only play 7 through 10 usually, Eastern Standard Time.
Joel?
Yeah, usually I'm relegated to playing support unless I throw a temper tantrum and then they let me play DPS for the night. I guess I'm here to talk about Bard, but I play all the other classes as well pretty regularly. To be fair, probably more than Bard, and I play exclusively in roam groups or small men.
And my fellow knight Co.
Hey, I'm really just here to maybe ask some questions or pitch in. I'm on my healer, Surf Girl, right now, and I was really surprised that Hadley was able to rattle off what she did in the middle of a big fight, so...
Matt?
How y'all doing? I'm Matt, Mattswarden. I've played this game for many moons. Warden was my first character. It's always been my main. It's been my favorite class throughout every game I've ever played. So I'm going to be representing Wardens today.
Okay, and Meaduuk.
I'm Mead, and I play healer. I started out on Hib, and I'm basically just here to represent for some healers.
Okay, so is it Mead UK or Meaduuk?
You can call me whatever you want. Mead is what most people call me.
Okay.
But my toon name is Meaduuk.
Okay. Vegamite?
Hey, I'm Vegamite. I started playing on the classic servers. My bard is backwards.
And Vulk. I remember that name backwards.
Yeah, I'm Vulkym. I'm an American player. Started on Meaduuk, went to Mordred, played that for many years until it died. Came to Ewayne and representing the Friar to make staff Friars great again tonight.
Oh no. Okay. So the first thing I'd like to do is go through, and we don't necessarily have to go in order every single time or anything. We'll just start this as a bit more of a round table. Because there are a lot of us, I will try and ask folks specific questions, but if you have something to say, jump in. Just be careful that we don't end up talking over people just because we do have a big crowd. So I'll go ahead and I'll start with Vulk. You're talking about Friars, so how are you spec'd at the moment and how are you playing? Are you playing solo, small man? Are you rejuve? How are you playing right
now? I always play solo. That's just, what I enjoy to do on DAOC. And my spec right now is 50 staff, 50 enhanced. rest in the parry and then like 3 rejuve or something. And I also ran 50 staff, 42 enhanced, 25 rejuve for the, you know, heal and kite spec.
Okay, and what about you, Hadley? How are you spec'd?
I kind of like to change every couple of weeks just to mix it up, but I am mostly a mend or AUG healer or AUG mend healer. Don't do a lot of pack. Just kind of varies. I like to respec my RAs every couple of weeks as well. Just kind of keeps things from getting boring.
Okay, so when, like, I see you usually in the same group and so on, and you respec even though you have the same role, or does your role change within your group then?
No, I run specifically with one pack healer. I sometimes run with Mead occasionally, and in the daytime I run with another pack healer. But I have to run with a pack healer as I don't have anything to bring to a group for any kind of CC. My role is strictly healing and AUG.
Okay. What about you, Joel?
With respect to Bard, I mean, there's really only a couple specs for Bard, I would say. You're pretty... I mean, your role's going to be completely determined by the makeup of your group and what you're fighting. There's really no cookie-cutter approach for Bard. I'm sorry if I didn't answer your question, but...
No, I was just kind of wondering. I was given a few specs here by my secret supplier of specs, and so the specs that I was given was, for instance, for healer, 38 pacification, 35 mending, 14 AUG, or 41 mending, 35 AUG. Is that pretty common for healers? Is that usually what people run? Anybody can answer.
Yeah, I would say that those are probably the cookie cutter specs. So the first spec there was your traditional, I guess I would say your modern tri-spec. And the second one there, I believe you said augment, and that's kind of the more passive healing role. So you've got your more support style up in the front and mezzing, and but was still able to cap their bases. And then the second spec there is more of a celerity role, resists and things of that nature. Those are probably the two most common specs that you'll find out there.
Yeah.
Okay. And for Bard, I was only given one. It's 44 nurture, 32 regrowth.
There's a couple specs. I mean, that's the main spec you'd go. That's the main spec you would go. A lot of people are going 10 blades now as well. You get a kind of a token side snare. It just adds another element to the class, I guess. You lose out on a bit of healing, but overall, just because of what the Bard's role is in the group, I don't think it really affects the class that much. Having a side snare would offer very marginal, occasional utility, but it's another way of doing it.
Yeah, I mean, the role doesn't change at all as long as you have the core abilities. I mean, on my Bard, I actually spec 25 blunt. The only thing I really lose is a little healing, but with Realm Rank, it's kind of made up for. But I mean, as long as you have speed and AoE mez and demez, nobody should really care how you spec as long as you're actually willing to play Bard.
Okay, and then the reason I'm bringing this out is if we have any new people listening, they might get some hints and stuff of the way to spec their tune and why. For Warden, I've got 42 shield, 10 blades, 35 regrowth, 45 nurture. Boy, that seems like a lot. Does that sound right?
This is just me personally. Mattswarden here. I've literally never used either of those specs. I think Tom might have used one like that, but that sounds like a really weird spec to me.
I think for groups, for hybrid wardens, the 42 shield spec could be seen as like the standard, or it used to be anyway. Now that you have confused, you probably drop shield and get higher regrowth. There are a lot of ways to spec a warden.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm just rattling off one here, but when I was playing 8s in Nora's group, I was running 49 nurture, 35 regrowth, 35 shield, 15 blades, 10 parry. That'll give you yellow heals, yellow celerity. That'll give you, your side stun, your back stun. It'll give you your side snare from blades. That was just an example.
Yeah, as long as you have 45 nurture, you can really go whatever rest you want.
And what about Friar? Now for staff Friar, I got 2 different ones, 35 enhance, 35 rejuve, 44 staff, 28 parry, or 23 enhance, 44 rejuve, 44 staff, 28 parry. Does that sound right?
I've never heard of those, to tell you the truth. And hybrid really doesn't work in today's game. So the 2 specs I ran are probably the only specs you can run if you want to go staff.
So what spec did you run as staff? I'm going to throw out the enhanced staff, the rejuve enhanced thing for Friar for Al, because that's pretty much what we're grouping right now. So 50 enhance, 50 rejuve, 13 staff, 6 parry. So what would a staff Friar, what would it be?
Right now I run 50 enhance, 50 staff, like 13 or 14 parry, rest rejuve. That's better for fighting multiples, and then if you want to do the bigger heals, you go 25 rejuve, 50 staff, 42 enhance. And you know, like if you have mastery healing and a good template, 25 healing in it, 2 heals we get you to full usually if you try to kite them out.
So the other thing about your specs and stuff that I was wondering, Hadley kind of answered this a little bit. When you guys have a regular group setup, do you spec to reflect that group setup? In other words, if you have a second healing class that you're always going to work with and you know that person's going to group with you and stuff, do you set up your specs to complement each other? And then would you spec differently if you were just in a pug? Anybody can jump in for any of these 2.
Actually, can I hit a point back on the specs? Somebody had mentioned
Sure.
going 41 mend. I would never go 41 mend. It's a power hog. It's just too much. Even, you know, I've got a fairly high realm rank. I can even that out with RAs, but it sucks power. I would never go past 40. Your pack, I would never go less than 38 because you get resisted way too much, and there's no reason to have a 15 augmentation in the pack line. Just thought I'd throw that out there for new people.
I mean,
Oh, that's
in 2016, it really is not hard to template in 25 siphoning, 40 plus power pool, and having, 35 power regen? I mean, I don't see that as much of an issue.
To answer Lovely's question, yeah, I mean, just give an example. Jop was mentioning inside the chat here that oftentimes when the healer in my group, when I'm not playing healer, which is quite common actually, and somebody else is playing, oftentimes the only healer in our group, if we're running maybe 1 or 2 Valks or we're just low on healers that night, we'll run a very, very high mend healer, especially in a tank group. And so the group makeup heavily dictates what the support spec, at least in my groups.
And is it on all 3 realms pretty much mandatory to have 2 healers per group, or can you get away with something else? I know oftentimes we have folks going, you know, looking for group rejuve, heretic, and that just really doesn't work. So we have to have on Alb, we have to have either 2 clerics or cleric friar, and honestly 2 friars doesn't work either. So do you guys always need 2 heals?
Well, yeah, you pretty much, if you're running 8-man anyway, you gotta have 2 healers. There's no one else to really heal for their group.
I mean, in terms of Midgard, Midgard's the only one that really can do that if they have a Valkyrie or maybe a Heal Warlock or something like that. But I mean,
You can't.
sometimes you prefer running 4.
Yeah, I've seen
The
that.
Valkyrie is just mostly for like roaming groups, not big Zerg Warfare. You definitely need 2 healers.
Yeah,
We rarely... Go.
I'm sorry. I was just gonna say, yeah, I wouldn't trust my life to a Valk. That's just me.
You haven't played with me on Valk.
A heal lock, Valk healing is actually very good, but a heal lock in situations like if you're in a keep or you're in a tower or you're somewhere stationary is wonderful. They're great healers. But if you get into open field, if you're roaming, if you're doing that type of thing, you're a caster. basically. So yeah, you can heal, but in open field, it's not really good to have a healing log.
Well, I mean, the open field just come down to the lack of, like, your loss of demez, which can be countered with a Spirit Master or something like that, but yeah, I mean, the Warlock healing ability is equal or better than a healer's, to be honest. You know, do it powerlessly.
Situational, yes. That's what I just said.
And I'd have to agree. Most of the time, the reason why we run less than 2 healers is more out of necessity than, you know, in a perfect world, we'd always love to have 2. But, you know, sometimes it can be fun to try other setups, especially in year 15 of the game.
So on mid, do you always do 2 healers or healer shaman? Would that be just as good or no? Would like the shaman be the 3rd healing class?
For us,
I'm a little biased. We don't
want my
really
shaman healing. That's just me personally. Like any shaman in my group, I don't want them healing. They can be a backup if we desperately need it, but it's the same as for the Valk. Like you want the shaman diseasing and dotting, especially. Well, I will mainly Zerg, but that's mainly what you want them for curing disease.
Healer is one of the best classes in the game. I mean, to not run 2 healers is, you're really limiting yourself. There's not much you can put in there that's going to be more utility than a healer. Aug healer just brings so much to the group that to exempt it from your composition, you're shooting yourself in the foot. It's like it'd be like running Al without a Thurgist.
Yep, Joel's absolutely right. Healer, I agree that healer's one of the strongest classes in the game, and has some, just even in this day, it hasn't gotten glossed over. Other classes have become stronger and weaker over the years, and somehow healer has still been able to maintain a pretty good position. There's very few things that can fill that spot the way that healer can, or in terms of total utility.
Yeah, I agree with that. You can take two healers and fill it with basically anything you want, as long as those 2 healers are strong and good. You can fill it with what you need.
Okay, that's actually the perfect segue into my next question. Joel actually brought this up in the first podcast where we talked a little bit about must-have classes. On Alb, I know a cleric is pretty much required in a group. You have to have a cleric. 2 clerics is way better, but cleric friar works as well. So healers and bards, I'm going to say those are the must-have classes for Hib and mid. Is that correct?
I think all the classes being covered in this podcast are must-have classes. I don't know.
I wouldn't say a Warden's must-have class.
I mean,
it depends on the setup. It depends on the setup.
You're losing resist and PBT and celerity.
Yes, well, considering the fact that most groups these days are tank groups, I would say that a Warden is a staple in just about any Hib group, unless you're running a pure caster Hib.
More so than a Friar would be, yeah.
Right, yeah, even more so than a Friar would be, because you've got celerity, you've got PBT, you've got fatter heals than a Druid sometimes, so.
I mean, if you had the choice to run both, obviously you would, but I mean, I feel it's comparable to the Friar, to where, I mean, if you don't run it, you don't run it, but I mean, if you're building a group, obviously you'd prefer to have it.
Sure.
What about 2 bards?
I mean, 2 bards is nice. I mean, obviously, bards probably fits this mold of must-have class more than anything else. I mean, that's the reason why I played it for such a long time, is that I could log on, invite one person, do a round, or while I'm doing that, I can invite more people and fill towards a full group. I mean, no matter what, on a Hib, it starts with a bard and something, while on mid, I mean, it could start with a Scald and a Valkyrie or anything else, you know.
Double bard's very situational. You got to remember, any group, whether you're small man or 8-man, you have a finite amount of spots and therefore a finite amount of utility. So you have to spread around your utility and make sure you have everything covered. So if you have 2 bards, you have to essentially use that second bard to fill other utility that you would normally have a different class doing. So thus you have to have the rest of your setup designed to complement that. But normally it's not the best, unless you're doing casters.
Yeah, I mean, for support, 4 casters, 2 bards fit in the fine, but I mean, even otherwise, it's not that big of a stretch to have a bard fill like an Eldritch's role as erupts or something like that, you know?
Well, the Eldritch brings other things to the table that a bard can't, so you have finite utility, you have to spread it around.
And that's coming more from a small man, 8-man perspective, right? Versus like in a Zerg. In a Zerg, it's not as critical.
It'd be a total waste to run 2 bards in a Zerg. I mean, you want to fill that group of DPS and heals. I mean, a bard in a Zerg is pretty much your only role is to position your group. It's either push or not push or whatever. I mean, a Mez is cool in a Zerg, but your main role in a Zerg is just leading the group.
Gotta get them keys.
Yeah, I usually get them honestly, from some keep we have once a year.
In a Zerg, a bard becomes just a motivational speaker almost, you know? It's just, you're there for little heals, little demez, and just making calls.
They're fantastic for seek and destroy. You can amnesia anything on the outskirts of the Zerg 2K units array, and as a result, they're now your prey. So I do find quite a few bards in the Zerg, but mostly that's what they're up to, just kind of bouncing around, seeing what they can pick off, or seeing what they can grab for the Zerg.
Okay, I'm going to move on now to some of the harder questions. We'll try and make sure everybody gets a chance to answer this. So, what is the biggest strength of your class? In other words, what's the best thing about it? Doesn't need any changing. It's great. What do you guys think? I'll go ahead and I'm going to put Flik up for this one.
Alright, that would be the Warden. The biggest strength of a Warden, or, well, I specifically play the hybrid type Warden, and that's all its combined defenses together, which makes it the best, arguably, okay, the best peel tank in the game. It should have favorable matchups against any peel 1v1s.
Okay, and now, folks, if you just want to jump in and tell about your class, the biggest strength of your class.
I would just like to add on to the Warden and say, yeah, the defense is great, but for me, this is just my opinion, the greatest strength of a Warden is its versatility. A Warden is a true hybrid, and you can, as long as you know what you're doing, you can do pretty much anything asked of you in a group setting. You can play like Tom, you can be a peeling machine, you know, stop, throw out some fat heals, you're a jack of all trades, and that's what a Warden is.
Is a Warden difficult to learn to play?
I wouldn't say that it's difficult to learn, but a Warden is one of those classes that has a high skill cap, so it's difficult to master.
Yep, you can play it in a really simple fashion, if you so please.
Mm-hmm. Or you can play it, you know, to the level that Tom or me, or, I mean, even if you get good enough, Monsters did. You know, he pioneered the way Battle Wardens play.
Any other comments on the Warden's strengths? Anybody else? Okay, let's talk about healers' strengths.
I'm sure I'll jump in for healers. You know, I would say more than anything, the baseline spells for healer are just paramount to a healer's success. You know, being able to have a strong baseline stun, single target mez, and then being able to spec further into those to spread them out for AEs on both, and have those as instants. The pack line is definitely where I like my healer the best, is where it shines for me. But, you know, even the men line has a lot to it. It's very frothed with some very good abilities, even at lower specs, even into the 30s, and specifically 35.
Now, does it have a steep learning curve, do you think, where because of the fact that you're doing a lot of healing and your primary CC, that's kind of a steep learning curve, I think?
Can I jump in on that one?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I didn't want to overstep. It does have a steep learning curve. I think that's one of the great things about it and one of the worst things about it, because it takes a lot of attention to detail. A lot of people don't want to play it. And when they do play it, they don't necessarily play it to the best of their ability of the class. So there is a steep learning curve.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with that completely. I'd say it's probably one of the hardest classes to play in the game to an adequate level, much less to a higher level. To really shine on a healer, you've got to be in the right headspace. There's so many things that you're juggling that normally might be relegated to just a healing class, or a healing class that has more of a back support role. And you might be doing that in the front of a fight, so finding time, finding space to get certain spells off, things like Cure Nearsight and such, can be very, very difficult up in the front line if it's relegated to you, if the other person's mezzed out, getting demezzes off. There is so much that's in your, ballpark. I would say the tennis balls hit to you just so often, and you have to respond constantly. And as a result, it requires just a lot of attention. I rarely play in mine because I don't play it to that level anymore, and I applaud those that do.
One
It's
thing
kind of
about
like
the
having a
Nearsight.
job. Go ahead.
I was going to say the Nearsight is actually a chamois usually. If you have the same chamois playing in your group, you can basically get away with the chamois doing that. So the healer that's healing can do the demezzes and that type of thing, and then your pack healer is focused mostly on mezzing. But it is very challenging that you have your healer as not only your main healing class, but also as your main C-seer in the realm.
And I would think that would be difficult. I know, oftentimes we'll get somebody going Smite Cleric looking for group, and you have to really juggle whether that person is going to only be smiting, or are they going to actually be able to pull back that smiting and start healing you. So having that as both things for a healer, I think that would be the real juggling thing, saying, okay, am I going to do something to save somebody, or am I going to do something that might change the fight? I would think that would be pretty tough.
And it's also a very easy scapegoat as a result, especially if you only have, let's say, 2 healers in the group. If you're not running a shaman, those 2 healers really have to perform. And if they don't, the group is going to lose. Even if they did perform well, it can be very easy to have blame relegated to the healers, even if they were performing at least an adequate or even higher level. And as a result, I think that's why a lot of people shy away from healer, because it's a difficult position that you get put in often.
Is that also a reason you prefer running one healer, just so you can only have one person to blame? It makes everything that much easier?
I would call that more of an effect rather than a cause. I would say that a lot of people don't want to be the healer because that's happened in the past over the last 15 years to them.
I'm going to jump in and say that happens on every realm to every support class, healing class, it's always your fault when somebody dies. Not that they were standing in the wrong spot or didn't have their shields up. I think it takes a lot to play a healing class, because you do have that responsibility. When you play it as a healer, you do have that responsibility to your group, and you do feel bad when people die.
I'll pop in for any new healers out there. If somebody blames you for their death, all you have to do is keep letting them die, and eventually they'll get the point. Stops it in its tracks.
I like your style.
I second that.
Oh, she does it.
You can ask Clumsy.
Clumsy.
Clumsy will never
I have
learn.
him on a Zephyr ride always. He probably hates me. Okay, what about bards? What's the strength of a bard?
Well, the strength is flat out the strength is utility. You get a little bit of everything. You get speed, you get heals, you get mez, you get demez, you get roots, you get some interrupts. Can't be too much else they could give a bard. So I think they're in a really great spot.
Yeah, they obviously don't need anything more, but I think the strength is the 2 instant niches. That's the true learning curve of the class. That's when I play a different realm. I fight a bard. That's what I notice, whether or not they're actually using amnesias properly or they're just smashing away on it.
Well, I know on Alb we always look for the bard to kill first. That's what we look for. And Friar strengths.
Maybe someone after me could do Reju Friars, but Staff Friars, their strength would be, well, the group heal proc is amazing, and then their biggest strength is just, they're never out of the fight. I'm sure many people listening, if I fought them, they got me down at 10-20%, and I'll come back and beat them, and I think that's the biggest strength of the Friar, just the in-combat healing.
And Vulk, are there any strengths for Staff Friars?
Well, that's what I meant. That's what I meant for Staff Friars. And then Reju Friars, I mean, I'll leave it to someone else if they played it. Obviously, it's the big heals, the hot, the resists.
Yeah, I mean, the strengths of a Reju Friar is the fact that it's demanded. I mean, if you compare it to a Regrowth Warden, they don't really have that much. But, I mean, I guess it's nice the fact that it is a streamlined healing class. All you pretty much do is keep up resist and spam group heal, maybe single target every once in a while. But I mean, the strength of it is the fact that it's demanded. I mean, if you play a Reju Friar, somebody's going to group you.
The heals are just enormous on Reju Friars, and they can spend a little extra, spend a few more of their RAs towards those even being larger than, let's say, somebody that had to, maybe sub-spec a couple of RAs into other categories, and that really works to their advantage. They're kind of a little bit one direction.
It's nice to have a simplified class to where, like, if I had my girlfriend try to play this game, I would have her play a Reju Friar because it really isn't that much to it. But I mean, you get grouped.
Yeah, I'll actually add that. One, I don't play Reju just because it's very simple and boring to me. Pretty much just healing. I think you added the Confuse recently, right? I'm not sure, but anyway, the Staff Friar, the only strength they have is in combat healing, but they really do nothing better than any other class. They don't do high damage, they don't have crazy defense, so that's about it in combat healing.
I'd like to add something for the Friar, just in my personal experience. I've got one, he's 11, but haven't played him in a while. And in a Zerg situation, I think it's tough, especially people automatically just compare it to the Warden, and there's some differences. They don't have quite as much maybe, but they do have an ST, and I mean that can be clutch if you're trying to take a choke point or something like that. So I just wanted to add that.
Or the Insta-taunt. I'm not sure the range on it off the top of my head. I think it's 1350, but that can be fantastic.
That's actually a weakness I was going to put up.
Well,
a weakness for the static tempest, or?
No, I was going to say they only have one 30-second interrupt, which is really weak compared to a lot of other classes in terms of interrupting.
When it comes to healing classes, I mean, primary healers, the one that's actually doing the rejuve, the one that's actually doing the mend, it's not uncommon for them not to have any instant interrupt on any short timer.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Well, it's interesting because our Friar has the ST in our group and plays it very, very well. I would have looked at that, oddly enough, as a weakness, having the ST on Friar, because now your healer has to be running, a person that's one of your primary heals has to be running, has to have line of sight, and basically has to run face first into a fight to drop that ST. If it's in a strategic spot. So I kind of look at it as from a class perspective, it's great that they have that, but from what their job is, it's an awkward way to have to drop it.
I mean, obviously it's always going to be situational. I mean, in some situations it'd be awesome, just like with the Warden and Twiff, I mean.
Well, in open field, it's no big deal at all. But as soon as you get inside of a structure, now that primary healing class has to be in a position where they can drop that ST, and that puts them right smack in the line of fire.
I see that as a great choice to have to choose from, though. So every class has positives and negatives to it. You get to choose what you think is your positive and what your negative is, and sort of offset them. Having ST on a Friar is awesome. So I guess it's all on perspective.
Well, that's what I mean, is it's like whatever your role is and how you kind of choose to play it. If we had 2 clerics in a Friar, it would be great, but we usually do like 1 cleric, 1 Friar. And that kind of brings me to the weaknesses of the class. So let's keep going, and this is probably where it's going to get a little more interesting. So with Friars, Vulk, what's the weakness of the class?
Everyone knows the biggest weakness right now is getting past the shield tank. I mean, I fight, low realm rank shield tanks, but they have great templates, ML10 vests, new ablative shields, greater healths. They could be realm rank too, and I have no chance. I can't get past them. They'll slam me, I'll swing for 40, 45 seconds, not hit them once, they'll slam me again, and I'll die. So that's their biggest weakness, and then obviously disease kind of nerfs them very bad, because their strength is obviously healing, and then ASR debuffs are a big deal. They really hurt the class.
I would also add just general DPS of a staff friar. I mean, I think their staff DD is a 75 delve, when the Mauler two-handed fist traps is, or not two-handed fist traps, dual-wield fist traps is 250 delve. I mean, or is it 150? I don't know.
I think it's only 140.
Yeah, it's 150.
That's double, and then if you multiply that with mom or whatever, I mean, that's a big difference when it's essentially the same.
Yeah, but
style. It's a 2-part anytime chain at level 50.
The damage
or even if you look at Reaver Levy, I mean, you don't want to make it ridiculously overpowered for solo, but in a group, would I rather have a Mauler or a Friar as a DPS/BG slot? I mean,
yeah, I was gonna say that I don't want to make it crazy damage for solo and small man, have it just 4-shotting people, and I mean, I play realm rank 10 right now. I have some Aug Dex and Mastery Pain. I hit pretty hard. I can kill people in the 8-second stun. Not all the time, but a decent amount of time. So I don't know if I want to touch the damage. But at low realm rank, I do notice they don't really compare to a lot of classes in the two-handed damage terms.
Okay, what happened to staff friars? Because when I first started playing, that was the thing to do, is be a staff friar. I mean, nobody was rejuve friar. Was there something removed or changed that was that had a major impact on people playing staff friars?
I've played since they got the heal styles, and it's always been what it is now. You can't get past shield, and the damage doesn't compare to other two-handed classes. So if someone played way back when I hear they were really overpowered, I'll let them continue with that.
I just think that they didn't have a whole lot more options back in the day. Depending on how far we're going back, the heal line wasn't quite as robust as it is now, nor was enhanced, and they have a lot more options nowadays. You can kind of, well, I should say there's really 2 options, but at least there are 2 options.
I mean, you could also say that the game just left them behind. I mean, 8 years ago, templates were a lot worse. Nobody had energy resist, and there wasn't CO15. So, I mean, that 2-part excommunic chain was a big chunk of somebody's life, versus now it's like 10%, if that.
Yeah, I'll agree with that completely.
And I'll also say one big problem with the Friars was it got toned down with the disease duration nerf recently, like a couple months ago or a year ago, but CO disease really hurt that class with everyone having it.
So basically, if you wanted something to do damage, you would just pick a different class because Staff Friar just doesn't do enough?
Yeah, I was gonna, that's why I don't think hybrid is viable at all. One, you can't template for it, and two, pretty much every other melee class in AL will out-damage a Friar. So I just don't think it's viable at all for a DPS class.
I mean, it doesn't have to out DPS everybody else, because you can still make the argument that they still have heals, they still have all those other BG abilities and whatnot. But I mean, if the DPS was somewhat comparable, I mean, now it's essentially nothing. I mean, if you hit enough people, you might get out healed by people with like armor procs or something, you know?
Yeah, and the other thing is also, if people are guarded, it's getting past shield again. You can't get past it. What else I was gonna say? Oh, anyway.
So what would you, if you go?
Oh, I think I was gonna finish your thought. It's hard to get past bodyguard though if you're trying to do that hybrid.
Well, you can't really complain about bodyguard on a staff friar when every other tank has to deal with it. It's kind of dumb.
Yeah, no, I'm not complaining about bodyguard. I'm more complaining about shield tanks and just you're not hitting enough to do the damage.
Okay, what could be done to make it better without redoing the whole class? Like, is there one teeny tiny thing that could be done to make it more viable as a staff friar? You only get to do one teeny tiny thing.
Yeah, for groups, I really don't think they'll ever be viable, just because you really can't template for a hybrid, and like you said before with a Warden, you're not sure if you should fight or heal, and usually if you do fight, you get yelled at for not healing someone and they die. So the biggest thing right now, I would think, is either passive weapon skill increase or a buff. You know, say you're training 35 staff or 40 staff, you get a weapon skill buff like the Maulers do in Magnetism. Something along those lines.
If I could throw something out there, getting past shield, if that's a major issue, and I don't know that anything would fit in staff. I don't know of too many abilities that are put into a weapon line, but maybe something like an RA, something like an overwhelm ability, similar to infiltrators. Maybe not 25%, but something along the lines of 5, 10, 15% for the first 3 tiers type of thing.
Okay. Let's move on to the weaknesses in the Wardens. What's the biggest weakness in Wardens?
I'm going to let Tom go first on this.
Alright, well, for the group Warden, I don't really see any great weakness. I would say Wardens are in a really good spot, comparable to AUG healers in potency. I guess you could say that them being unable to do any kind of sustained DPS is a weakness, but at the same time, I'd see that as a strength. You don't get these kamikaze Wardens flying in, thinking they're gonna kill stuff, and ultimately that's for the better. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer to a great weakness. I would return the question to Matt.
That's a good thing.
Thank you for that wonderful insight.
He's great, isn't he? He's just a fountain of knowledge. But okay, well, on the other side of the coin here, because I played mostly solo, small, duo, trio, things like that, I would say that the biggest weakness of the Warden is that it's just like the staff friar. It's been left behind. Like 8 years ago, for example, and this is just me, running up examples off the top of my head, we were the most effective battle masters in the game. I mean, we still are technically, but we can't really break an enemy like we used to be able to. We can't do any sort of sustained DPS. Our damage is horrible. We have super low weapon skills, so it's hard to get past defenses, just like the Friar. However, we're a little better off than the Friar in that aspect, because we have, we can use Blade of Illusions, Trader's Dagger, we can increase the number of attackers against our enemies. However, that doesn't really matter when, one swing might take, 1 or 2% of someone's health away. And, back in the day, it was like, we could fight dual wielders, we could fight, paladins, and we would have a good chance of winning because there were no supremacy pots, there were no heroism pots. We could take their buffs, we could keep them off, and we could essentially wear them down. However, that's not the case anymore. Before, that was our strength, that was how we won fights. We outlasted our opponent. Now, our opponents can outlast us. And there's really nothing we can do about it. It's just the way the game has progressed. Templates are better, for example, the otherworldly helms, I was fighting a savage, what was it, like yesterday, and I hit the guy in the head. He was down to like 25%. His helmet healed him up to almost half health, and a single heal. And I'm like, well, there goes 10 minutes of work. So honestly, that's basically it. The game's left us behind. Wardens have been stagnant, for the past however many years. I think the last big change we got to our melee was shield spec. So it's just the fact that we can't really do anything against an enemy.
Okay, what would help you? Like some kind of little tweak? Is there stuff in other lines that if maybe it was spread out differently, like stuff that's good in one line, if you were able to spec differently somehow?
See, here's the thing. There's no real definite answer to that. Not one that I can come up with, at least. I think if we had a weapon skill boost, or if they turned our old R5 Fury of Nature, which is now available at 49 Nurture, to maybe a timered buff, that would help us out tremendously. And it wouldn't really be a big thing, but the only thing that I can really see is either, a weapon skill boost, or maybe some kind of reworking to our weapon line, or maybe some kind of change to the way shears work, because let's face it, supremacy pots aren't going away. Maybe some kind of change to the way Battlemaster works, because it's almost useless now except for, 3 abilities.
Matt and I were talking about this earlier, and it's a little bit of a topic for probably the last healer chat more than it is this one, but shears in general are behind the times now with the way that people can get buffs back up. And so one of the things that I had mentioned, and I don't know how much Matt was on board with it, but I think it's time for a rework of that style, possibly making it shear a few different buffs at a time, of course in the same random fashion as it does now. I think that would be an easy, simple fix to make it more viable.
How about if it just attaches debuffs instead of taking the shears away?
I thought about that too, much like old Plaguebringer, or I guess modern Plaguebringer even, how you could have a couple different types of debuffs that it could apply, and it could apply one randomly. That's another great idea.
I mean, why as it stands now, it shears like people's water pots or end pot. I mean, I think it should just focus on actual conk buffs, or self buffs, that for that matter. But the fact that I Battlemaster shear somebody, I take their energy resist or some shit, I mean, that's kind of a waste of time to me. I mean, if it did actual buffs that matter to the player, I think it'd be actually good.
Yep, that's a good point.
I absolutely agree here. I think Gaven was pretty spot on with that. I think I agree with him. It should take, 3 buffs, because the first part of that chain is actually a PBA Dex Quick debuff. So that's pretty nice. If you're able to land that, you're able to get, maybe a couple more hits off. I mean, but I think it should shear off, more buffs. Because I'm sorry, it's not going to matter. I'm losing so much DPS if I'm choosing not to do Essence Flames and instead doing, Essence Damp and Essence Shatter. I'm able to do that maybe twice in a stun session, twice in a 7-second stun, and it takes off, a water pot and a resist buff. Like, how does that help me? That doesn't. All that does is prolong the fight, and it just makes things worse in my corner.
Yep, so one or two solutions there, either pinpoint like Reese was saying, or potentially, spread it out the same way it is now, but have it do more than one.
Right, or maybe have it kind of work like the Astral Cloak, where it'll take one of each kind of buff. I want to say I was told, I don't really know how it works because I don't play my Nightshade all that much, but I was told it'll take a base buff, it'll take a spec buff, and then something else. Am I wrong in that, or is that not how it works?
Yeah, one base, one AF, one spec. But I mean, I think Warden has so much right now that you don't need that much. Small tweaks here and there, maybe a weapon skill buff or something. But to say that you need to sheer 3 buffs off one melee style is kind of silly. But I mean, I'm not saying they don't need anything, but it's just not that much.
Can I add in, please?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Vulk.
Because the Friar, is pretty close with buff shears. They're kind of useless besides power tapping a vamp and maybe interrupting BG players. But I would object to the shearing, 3 buffs at a time. I just think that can get really silly with how fast the Wardens attack. And I would rather see the ML10 style, instead of buff shearing, maybe move it to, like debuffs like they said, a random debuff like Plaguebringer. And then also I want to say, for self-buffing classes, I'm kind of, with the Tenacity pot especially, I'm tired of getting sheared by heavy tanks, and them shearing my ABS, my heal pot, and other stuff like that, where I need to stop and cast, and then they just beat me down with a two-hander. So I was thinking maybe self-buff classes, they can't be sheared. Like, self-buff classes only make their uniqueness back.
Okay, those are actually some really good points. I'm going to move on to the Bard weaknesses now. What are the Bard weaknesses?
They don't really have any. I mean, the only 2 things I would really add to Bard would be letting the single target instant amnesia level with it. As of right now, it's only like a gray level 3, and then. I mean, that would incentivize people to use both of them, because right now you kind of use it hoping it would resist, and so I think that would add a little flavor to the class. And then maybe just throwing like a weapon skill buff every 10 levels in a weapon skill line, because I mean, right now you can spec 50 blunt and versus 25 blunt, and you really won't hit that much harder. And I mean, if somebody wants to invest that many spec points into a line, I feel it should be somewhat worth it. It's not like anybody would do it anyways, but it makes it more of an option.
What about weapon choice for melee bards? Did that get fixed?
What do you mean by weapon choice?
What do you mean?
Like, do you have reasonable weapons now, like the CL, the champ weapons, the DF weapons?
Yeah, I mean, the DF weapons are good, I guess, but I mean, I'm pretty sure any solo battle bard is still going to be using ML10 or Legendary to debuff for his DDs. I mean, I guess it's another option to swap in, but I mean, it's not like battle bards really need anything. I mean, it's a class that has 2 forms of CC, heals, and then DDs. So I mean, if somebody is really inclined to try to play that way, it's all good. But
as it stands, battle bards actually put out more damage than battle wardens do.
Yeah, I mean,
but
battle bards don't have PBT, man.
Well, they don't have the lasting power in toe-to-toe, true, but they can put out more damage, is what I'm saying. Battle bards are in the same, bards in general are in the same boat as wardens with the weapon lines, where I could spec, because I swap between a couple different specs. I swap between 35 shield, 29 blade spec, or 34 blades, 29 shield spec. And I could go, I've done tests on Pendragon, where I would spec 15 blades, and then I would spec like 50 blades, and the damage variance was, I could be hitting for 115 with 15 blades, and then I would go up to 130 with 44 blades. It's ridiculous, because you get no benefit from speccing into your weapon line.
Yeah, classes, like primary support classes, if somebody chooses to spec 50 weapon or 50 on a Bard or Warden, or say a Friar, they should get some benefit from it. Like, even if it's just scaled like 5% for every 10 levels, so at 50 it'd be 25%. I mean, that really isn't that big of an increase. It's not like it would make a battle bard hit very hard. It wouldn't affect Friars terribly much. I mean, it would make them hit be a lot better, but it would just be something.
Maybe I'm alone in this, but I think if you can spec a weapon line, you should be able to get benefits from it.
I mean, obviously getting the styles is a benefit, but I'm just saying for Bards, Wardens, and Friars, their benefit isn't as much as their point investment, I guess.
Well, you could actually spec like 34 blunt on a bard and get Mauler, or you can, put those points elsewhere and pick up the champ style resilience and still hit almost as hard. I mean, within a few points.
Going back to Bard's weaknesses, I would say Bard's probably biggest weakness is pets, but I think that is completely acceptable. I think it should be and should continue to be that way. They don't have the best pet clears of themselves, almost any, to speak of, but they can still function, at least in some capability, with a pet on them, and so it's a nice balance.
I mean, you do have 4 instas, you have 2 DDs, 2 amnesias, and a weapon. So I mean, it's not like you can't do anything with a weapon with a pet on you. Plus, you can use your 2 DDs. You can insta kill or third pet off yourself, or you can confuse it before it gets to you. So I mean, I don't really see how pets are an issue
they're
for
not
Bards.
the weakest against pets, but they don't have any access to like a pet scare of any sort, which so many support classes have been a little bit given out like candy in the last couple of patch cycles. But just in referring to, you could kind of leave the pet on you, especially if it was maybe something a lot larger than a theored pet, or maybe a whole group of theored pets, which does often happen. You're not completely screwed.
Well, what do you really mean by that? Because the only ones that have been actively given a pet scare was Wardens, and we got that as a new RR5.
And what do you have to say about that, Gaven?
Good question. I don't know. I think it was actually more of maybe clerics moving over to out of Perfector and into Warlord to get access to Pet Scare, maybe more often now than in the past. There's a lot of dynamic changes that have allowed for more Pet Scares to kind of come up to the surface and find their way into 8-man, in my opinion. Which is
fair. If a cleric wants to use his MLs to do that.
And including in pet scares, I would also include, Confuse, that has literally been given out like candy, and that's fine. I think it was an absolute needed thing, but it wasn't something that was given to Bards, and so it's something that they don't quite have access to like some of the other support classes, and I think that's a perfect
do have Confuse, though.
Bards have Confuse.
Oh, shitty. I didn't even realize.
Mm-hmm.
What spec level?
It's in music.
The biggest drawback of the Bard is that it's a hard class to play, I think, is the main drawback of the Bard. If you have somebody on it that's not particularly proficient or experienced, the class is not, it vitiates its effectiveness for sure. But Hibernian groups have a lot of warts, and the Bard being so good covers a lot of those holes. And
well, if they're bad, and it's infinitely worse, right? Because you're so reliant.
Yeah, you're nerfing the entire realm if you nerf Bards, so you can't really, because Hib is already fighting.
I mean, I really don't think the love they got with the meds reduction or the switching to 2 DDs, whatever, 4 years ago was really needed. But I mean, it is the anchor of any Hib group, so kind of fits. I mean, it's not like Bards are wildly overpowered outside of like small manning, and I mean, I think the strength of Bard is the fact that it scales to any level of RVR. I mean, it can solo if it wants to, it can small man, it can group, and can Zerg. I mean, at every level, it's somewhat useful and needed.
Yeah.
And sorry, I was going to just go. Did you want to say something else, Matt? I was going to move on to healer.
No, that's fine. Go ahead, Luvly.
Okay. Healer weaknesses. What do we think?
I think there's really one main one. It's basically the only class that they can game that can't actually go out and play solo if they wanted to. to kill stuff, basically.
There's no offensive ability for us to do. Yes, we have a lot of toys, but there's no offensive stuff, and I'm not talking about champ levels.
I mean,
what about pet clears? Do either of you guys feel that healers are behind the curve as far as clearing pets?
I think that they have to rely. I think that they have to rely on their group, maybe more so than some other classes do. But I think that's okay. They have so much in their wheelhouse as it is, and being given that same confuse at 35 spec and mend is just a huge boon.
I'd like to pop in on that one.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, it's very difficult once you have pets on you to actually have to rely on your tank or your Thane to get back to you to take those off. Quite often I have 10 Theragist pets on me, and that locks me down. I can't get them off of me. So yes, we would need something in order to pet clear. Would be very helpful.
I mean, I think that's more of a group issue versus the class issue. I mean, you're free to confuse them off of yourself before they reach you. But like Gaven said, they have so much already. It'd be kind of silly to give them an offensive spell. And to say that they can't kill anything, if you watch Gargle's solo healer video, I mean, it's not like they don't have a weapon. You're allowed to swing it.
Yeah, and we're going to take something down
that's a
with
champ
our
level.
weapon.
You guys regen faster than I can damage you.
True, but I mean, you're basically in the same boat as Wardens right now.
No, there's no buts. There's no
You
buts.
have styles. If I had styles, I'd be happy.
You can actually spec for this style and CL ability called Frontal Assault. It's got like a 75 heat DD on it. You swing that at somebody with a Voltaic two-hander and, you know, celerity, and you're actually hitting pretty hard.
Hey, I run a two-hander. Guess who whips it out all the time? Thank you. I also have my own haste that I run all the time. You will regen faster than I can damage you.
If you felt so inclined... Yeah, but if you felt so inclined to go to damage, you have access to red celerity, you have access to a red damage add, and you have access to a two-handed hammer. I would almost bet that in Aug Healer, I mean, if you spec 50 Aug and go out there and hit stuff, I would bet that you would probably out DPS a Warden.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you probably would out DPS a Warden.
I mean, if you're using a Voltaic weapon.
I'm not saying that I want damage to take the tank down.
Fight a heavy tank toe-to-toe. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's the whole point. We're not on the same damage dealing level as tanks. We're not supposed to be. We're support tunes. You wanted something that we would look forward to? Yes, we would like an offensive something, anything. How about the proc that we have in our line? We had that once upon a time, if I'm not mistaken, and it was taken away from us. It's just a thought.
I mean,
I'm
maybe
going out on a solo thing. Okay, like I said, I'm just going off on a solo thing. I've seen the videos of the guys soloing. I defy you to get some new player that's coming out here on a 50 to do what he's doing at his realm rank, or even at a lower realm rank than what he
I don't think they would need to be given a spell in a line that they spec in. Maybe they give access to a weapon spec, and if they so choose to dump points in it, then perhaps they can be damage dealers.
And I don't need, and I'm not talking about making us a main MA type of thing for damage either. It's just nice to have something.
I mean, I think a good idea would be letting their PvE proc work on pets. I mean, something like that would be fair, but anything else, I feel like it'd be kind of.
Well, you know what? We spent a lot of time on your Warden damage and how they need more damage and that type of thing. We're throwing ideas out here, so for people to jump and say, no, you don't need anything, you have such an arsenal already. Well, that's not really inclusive now, is it? You want a discussion, so let's have a discussion.
I'll just interrupt here. The question that I put out there, this is like not they're going to give you guys everything that you ask for. This is your wish list. If you could have this, what would you like? And in fairness, you know, that's what they would like for healers, and nothing that we say here is necessarily ever going to come to fruition. So no worries, guys.
Yeah,
That's on the wish list. And honestly, every single class cannot solo every other class, and I don't believe that's what's being asked for at all.
No,
No,
I
and
never said that either.
wait, that's not what we're asking for. You asked for a wish list, something that's reasonable.
Exactly.
And we're giving you something that's reasonable. I also allowed the other people in the chat to have their ability to speak without interrupting. I may not agree with you, just as like you don't agree with me, but I didn't interrupt you.
Just to add on the proc part of this discussion, I think it makes perfect sense that if the proc, I forget the name of it, ears something or other, if it doesn't already work on pets, that it absolutely should work on realm or enemy pets. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's Air's invention, and if you take that in PvE, it's wonderful. Like, it's fantastic. I can go in solo and do my PvE stuff, which I don't really do, but it doesn't work in RVR, and it's in our line already, so why was it taken away? If it was taken away because it's too overpowering, then dumb it down. It's already there. You wouldn't have to tweak too much.
I see what you're saying, and I kind of agree. I think it would be cool to have. I think it would be cool to see a healer be able to do, stuff like that. The only thing is, like, healers have such low weapon skill. I don't really see you ever going toe to toe with a tank. You know what I'm saying?
No, and I get you, but I'm just, okay, like, before we came here, we asked other healers what for weaknesses, and I'll tell you what, 90% of them said it'd be nice to have some kind of a damage thing to be able to go out solo, because this is about solo, small man, and all of it. So, like I said, I saw the video of the guy soloing. That took a lot of work for him to do it, but...
So I'm coming from a position of ignorance because I've never played a healer. Is there a spec line that you can spec offensively on a healer where you give up a lot of your ability to heal in exchange for more offense?
It's pacification is your offensive line on a healer. I mean, there's more to it. There's many ways to kill stuff, and damage is, you have to look at offense as a holistic thing, right? Like, most of what Dark Age is using abilities to set up kills. That's probably the core concept behind the PvP in it. Like, we can and I get where you're coming from of, like, if it would be fun to have an offensive ability, and I think that would be cool, but the healer has so much already that there is a line, and that's offensive, and it's pacification. Can't think of anything that's better for killing than stun. 12-second stun, whatever it is.
I mean, you could also say that
It's 9 seconds.
augmentation is their offensive line. They have a damage head, they have a celerity, they have a damage shield. I mean, it's obviously the game's left it behind, but I don't know. So maybe putting a PvP proc at 50 augmentation or something like that. Something to where nobody in a normal spec group healer would do it, but if you wanted to solo, you could.
Why would you do that when you already have that in your line?
I mean, the pacification DD proc works for PvE, but to just transfer that into RVR, I feel like it would be a little bit too much. So, I mean, it would have to be something to where you actually have the spec for it, not just be given it. I mean, if a Bard wants to solo, or if a Warden wants to solo, they have to spec actively for those abilities to make them be able to solo. For them just to give the healers a free ability to be able to solo would be kind of silly. I mean, it would have to be something where you had to actively spec towards to do. Yeah?
I can see that. I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that too.
I agree as well. Maybe high in Aug or possibly high in Men.
I agree with that as well. I
would
actually
say we'd
think
have
it
to
would be... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I think it'd be kind of cool to see in 50 of, like, the AUG line, give them a weapon style. One single weapon style. I don't know. I just think that would be kind of funny. That's just me.
Yeah, I was going to sort of say
I agree
the
with
same
everyone
thing.
else is specking for it and Okay, I think Hadley probably just kind of mentioned my next question is if there was a change in the class, like a nerf or something that happened, what was it? Or the example I used was supremacy pots. Like supremacy pots really have changed the game for healers. Was there anything other than supremacy pots that took place in the game, either recently or a long time ago, that really changed the class that you play? Anybody can.
I would say for Wardens, it was just templates getting so much better. I mean, you know, especially fighting like heavy tanks or hybrids. Before you, especially in hybrids, you would have to give up something. You know, there wasn't all this double proccing armor before the Dragon's Revenge campaign, and you know, you could.
I'm going to stop you right there because I want to ask you this right at that point. Your template has changed too, so how does that correspond? So your template has changed, my template has changed. Why does that make you weaker against me?
Because the fact that gear's gotten so much better, it's affected different classes differently. Like heavy tanks have just thrived in this situation, whereas lower DPS classes like Wardens are kind of getting, you know, left behind, and what's the word I want to say? They're getting the short end of the stick in this deal. Because
okay, so your template, the changes to templates are because they're better defensively, and so that makes you weaker offensively. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, in a way. I mean that, and it just prolongs fights. And as a soloer, that's really. I mean, obviously, you're not playing a warden to be able to, you know, maul somebody, but when you're fighting for 45 minutes, it gets kind of tiring.
And he's
so
right
to
there
paraphrase, are you saying that lower weapon skill class, lower DPS classes are having a harder time against the higher hits, higher AF, higher defense templates nowadays?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
And this is absolutely true. You know, just looking at the math behind it, there is a base level of mitigation that you can get to now that you couldn't get to before, that can, on average, take, let's say, 50 damage away on average per hit that you take, using a round number. Well, if you were only doing 75 damage before and you're only doing 75 damage now, well, you're doing 25 now, as opposed to 75 in the past, let's say. Somebody that was doing 200, he doesn't feel the pinch as much because he was doing 200 before, he's doing 50 less now, he's doing 150. Well, that's, you know, a fourth off of his total. But for somebody that was doing 75, he's lost 2/3 of his damage, just to give a very exotic, very, you know, spaced out example. But that would be about accurate for, let's say, you know, a CV Warden and a CV Blade Master.
I'm not sure if that math fully checks out, but yeah, I agree.
I would like to add something.
Sure.
So basically what I think he was kind of touching on it was like the Friar and the Warden, they always were able to outlast someone, but like with items like, say, like the Astral ML10 studded vests, I'll be fighting a Savage and he'll be out healing me in combat because I hit his vest a couple times. It's stuff like that that I think really hurt the Warden and the Friar. You know, self-healing classes like that.
And we're not saying that templates shouldn't get better, the game shouldn't progress. All we're saying is that these classes that are being left behind should be brought back into, you know, it should be brought back in a DAOC 2016.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Okay, I'm going to ask one last question to wrap this up. We're actually 30 minutes over, and don't go anywhere, guys. We are going to do a time code giveaway. My last question is, what do you guys think of the Realm Rank 5 abilities for your classes? Good, bad, needs a little tweaking? Go ahead and jump in.
I'll start with healers. It's probably one of the best rank 5s for yourself in the game. There's a lot of rank 5s that affect other people, enemies, or the group, but for a kind of selfish rank 5, it's amazing.
Mead, would you like to jump in on that?
Yeah, Go ahead.
Other than if you forget that you had popped it up and it's like 900 seconds, all of a sudden you'll be in the middle of a fight and all of a sudden you're in phase shift without hitting your button.
That's a very good...
Well, that's a bug.
No, I think it's as soon as once the timer runs out, it fires. But it could be cool to be able to cancel it or something.
You can't cancel it. So if your group's getting hit all of a sudden at that time, you're in the middle of healing and all of a sudden you can't heal because you're phase shifted.
You can cancel the 5-second phase shift if you're really quick. I'm pretty sure.
I've never seen it even show up on the top of my thing.
Oh, and you can also be nuked to hell through it and still die and still be FC'd, etc. But it's a really good ability.
Yeah, I like the ability. I got no issues with it overall.
As for the Warden one, I feel like I'm in the overwhelming minority here that actually likes it. I feel like Wardens are actually hard counters to Bone Dancers now. You know, as long as they're not catching us in open field and just destroying our face before we can do anything. I can't tell you how many high roam rank Bone Dancers I've caught in like Bled or Beano, and I can pet scare them, and for like 30 seconds they're just mine. And it's great. I love my RR5. And it's an amazing staple for group wardens as well. But I've talked to a lot of people and they really don't like it. So, you know, it's warden community's kind of split there, I guess.
Yeah, I love it. It's not the most original rank 5, but still really good.
I'm absolutely having the opposite opinion here. I'm one of these wardens that are not happy with the RR5. It's basically the same ability as the Warlord Pet Scare. This ability already exists. It's a shame that this is wasted for RR5. It should be something unique, and it isn't. And I'd really love it if it was something else. I'd rather not have any ideas on what it is, because my ideas would be too big. But yeah, as I said, it's basically the same thing as the Warlord Pet Scare, and it would be nice if we had something unique, and maybe something for the healing wardens as well, because yes, I mean the other two guys don't seem to be playing that much healing wardens as I do, and as a healer, you don't really need that. It would be nice if we had something for a healing class and not a Pet Scare.
I think the Pet Scare does a lot more for the healing warden than Fury of Nature, the old rank 5 ever did.
Yeah, I don't
I
think
agree
that
with
one.
you.
That one is not useful for wardens nowadays.
You don't want it back.
The old one is crap, but no, I don't want it back. Please
You
not.
gotta think though, that was the realm rank 5 before wardens were healers. I mean, yeah, we've always had our base group heals, but it was only like 4 or 5 years ago that we got graders. So I mean, that was around that it got changed, because it was realized that, hey, wardens aren't really this kind of bleh position in groups anymore.
Okay,
I mean,
what about the...
Sorry,
go ahead. No, go.
I was saying, if it is exactly mirrored image of the Pet Scare, maybe just increasing the radius on it or something, make it a little bit more special, but...
Or have it here's an idea, but it would probably be extremely overpowered. Make it a pulsing Pet Scare.
Have it kill the pets, not just scare them. There you go.
Hey now.
It wouldn't be any more overpowered than a cleric rank 5.
Man. Bring back Sever the Tether.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there's Clumsy. Hi, Clumsy. I'm going to Zephyr you. Okay. What about Bards and Friars?
For Bards, I would just say them being able to melee within it, and maybe just reducing the timer of it. Because right now, I think it's 5 minutes. And it's a pretty long snare, so that's pretty awesome. But the fact remains that, like, theoretically, a Bard could spec 50 blunt, 40 blades or something stupid, and then his rank 5 would totally negate that. While if they're normal spec, they can have any offensive spell they want, but they just can't melee. So maybe just shortening it from 5 minutes to 1 minute, and allowing melee styles to be done.
I'm sorry, can you explain the 40 blades, 40 blunt again? Because I totally didn't get that.
I'm saying, like, theoretically, a bard could spec 50 blunt, 40 blades, and not have any, and that's how he chooses to spec. But his rank 5 would drop immediately if he swings his weapon. While otherwise, if he's normally a group spec bard, you can use any offensive spell you spec for, as long as you don't swing, and you keep rank 5 up for 5 minutes. Like, bard rank 5 drops as soon as you swing your weapon.
For bards, what about like the fact that you're so obviously a bard and realm rank 5 when you've got your champ armor and you're just sitting there, quote, doing nothing? I mean, do you guys see that as a detriment?
I mean, most of it is, the cool part about it is not being able to see if you're casting or not, so you don't know if that person's mezzed, so it could lead to broken mezzes or whatever. But I mean, if you made it to where you clone somebody in your group or something like that, that could be cool. But I mean, it's just the fact that they're rank 5. Can't really complain too much about it.
This is Carl, something I'll mention for Wardens that needs an address, and I think it's for Friars and the other as well, the Shaman. The hot, when you cast it, when you're in sauce, knocks you out of sauce. That doesn't seem to make any sense to me.
Thank you for that comment,
Okay.
Carl.
And the last one, I don't think we've heard about the Friar Realm Rank 5.
No, we haven't. Okay. I would just like to say, like, three small things with the Friar. One, I noticed there's no pink spec AF buff, and I was wondering why that is. Two, I was wondering if the endurance regen is only 2 value, and it's kind of useless. Maybe bump it up to 3 or 4. And then the enhancements, heal procs, the offensive one and the defensive one, it seems they're based on rejuvenation. They're just all over the place, the values. Maybe make it a flat rate to make it more balanced for staff friars. And as for the realm rank 5, I think it's alright, but not for a 10-minute timer. So I would say either drop it to a 5-minute timer, or add somewhat damage to it, or add a heal to it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Vulkym here, because I have a level 50 Friar. He's a decent rank, and I've always wondered why Wardens get perma-sprint at level 2 with, this awesome, amazing endo regen buff, but Friars get one that's like half the value? Like, that doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, but it's for group 2, the one they get. Group buff.
No, the ones that, the ones that Friars get as
do you
group
mean
buff?
the region?
Yeah, the region.
The end reduction. Oh, never mind.
No, not the reduction.
Better.
No, yeah, Wardens get 40% reduction. Friars get the 25. But I was wondering about the regen buff, because Wardens, like, every time I roll a new Warden, I've got like 8 Wardens. Every time I roll a new Warden, I've got perma-sprint at level 2, and it's awesome, and I love it. And then I'll like mess around with a Friar or something. I'm like, this makes like no sense. I understand that Wardens have other chants, and that is the only chant that Friars have. But maybe like bump it up to 3. Would that really be so bad?
Yeah, it's more of a, like I was saying, it's more of like a quality of life. Also with the spec AF, like there's no pink buff. And also the enhancements, like being based off rejuve, I think that's really unfair to staff friars. So that's why I just wanted to bring that up.
I agree with that as well. Also, another thing I really want like, if there is anything, any quality of life change I could have for Wardens, like, forget the melee, forget all this, make our heal proc able to be put up while Essence Flames is up. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Just gonna reel that puppy in right now.
Sorry, QQing over.
That's okay. I think we brought up an awful lot of good stuff. Was there anybody that wanted to say anything else before we wrap this up? We are going to do a time code right here. I'll turn it over to Beebs in a sec. So Matt got his little thing in. Was there anybody else that wanted to say anything about their class?
Oh,
I've got one about healers. Oh, I got a quick one for healers. I've just heard this a bunch in game recently. It's kind of weird, but obviously they've only got one chant speed. But if you've got any sort of chanting self thing, you can't run both at the same time. Obviously, Wardens and most other classes can do too. Do you guys think that healers should be able to run too, or is that just asking for too much for healers?
What other chant does a healer have, though?
I'm saying, like, if you want to either the 5% AF hits or the 5% range, etc., from a use item.
I don't think that's a crazy request. I think there's a couple of classes that could benefit from something like that. Maybe if there was even a way to separate the chanted item uses from regular chants. I think there's a lot of classes that are affected by not being able to run chanted item uses because they run regular chants.
Yeah, okay, I understand now.
Yeah, one thing I've always wondered whenever they made the Warden Celerity casted is why would they make Warden Celerity casted, but at the same time combine Paladin's pure Celerity with their damage? That just seems kind of a bias.
Vulk, did you have a comment you wanted to make before we wrap it up?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to shout out to Sizzles for coming back to DAOC. And also, a lot of Friars have asked me if I can mention bringing staffs, slower speed staffs back to Friars, like 5.8, 5.9, maybe 6.0. Because right now, the slowest we have is a Pig Slayer. And not gonna lie, that's kind of crap. I don't even use it.
I think that's an extremely valid point. There's a number of classes that could use some slower weapons available to them. They've done that for Mauler staff recently by adding at least a few 5.7 and higher staffs, but especially with the changes coming up soon with the being able to swap weapons so easily, there's a lot of classes that are going to benefit from that, and there's a lot of classes that will have no use for it because they don't have any other weapons, or they don't have any other types of weapons that makes sense to be swapping.
I do have something that I'd like for the, I'm pretty sure it should be for all classes. We have some resists that we throw up, and we have some that are on a 20-minute timer and some that are on a 30-minute timer. It'd be kind of nice if we just kind of made them all on the same time.
Agree.
And another one that I've heard is, like, I don't know how it works. I think you can cast your palm on Hib and Alb as you're running. I don't care that we kind of cast it solid, but it's really annoying if you're in a fight, keep fight or something, and a Scald happens to have Crockring or something running his palm song, and you can't cast it on your healers, because if he dies, that palm song's absolutely useless. It'd be nice if your actual buff went ahead, was guaranteed ahead of what the palm song from a Scald has.
Yeah, it overrides it.
Oh, did they not? I think they changed that on one of the no, not cleric buffs, Sork mini things, where Power Song. I think one of them kept canceling the other one out, and it doesn't do that anymore. So that would be along the same lines.
Yeah, it's just that if someone, say someone died in a fight, and they want Palm, but a Scald has their Power Song up, you can't cast Palm on that person, because that Power Song is playing, and it won't let you cast on them.
Oh, okay.
It overwrites the casted buff, and if you have like a pot up for regen, it will overwrite that as well.
Plus the fact that Palm can be erupted is kind of stupid.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry, did someone mention the phase shift bug that we have?
Mention it.
Phase shift. You hit phase shift, it ends. A minute later, it pops back up again, says you can't cast, you can't do anything because you are now phase shifted again. And it randomly goes off.
Never had that happen.
Put that, yeah, do that as a feedback as well, as like a bug report as well. Just make sure that you put that in there so they can take a look at that.
It's the Sojourner line. It's not a spec or anything.
Yeah, I
think
sometimes
Sojourner
have issues with my Sojourner stuff, and we're going off down on a bunny trail here, but it's like sometimes is it me being stupid or did something actually go wrong? So if it is something that's going wrong repeatedly, be sure and do a feedback/bug report in the game.
Yeah, I've done several, and they're looking into it, and it hasn't really been addressed. And it's been going on for a very long time.
Okay. Before Beebs does this, I would like to thank every single person that came out and did this tonight. You guys were really well prepared. I really appreciate everybody coming out. I think we had a great discussion. We hit 83 in the Twitch channel. Super exciting. And we'll do a time code giveaway. Miss Beebs?
Just remember, vote Vegamite for Night 2016.
My vent broke up there. I didn't hear whatever that was. So it's okay. There's no need to repeat it. I won't say I have to kill this mob.
What was that thing you were doing where the like millions of little things were running along? That was so cute.
That's one of the epic encounters.
Oh, that was awesome. No pressure, but we're all watching you now.
Oh God. Yeah, so we normally don't do a time code on these podcasts, but because we have so many, we're gonna do a keyword time code giveaway for a 1 month time code.
If Vegemite becomes a knight, I think we'll have more time code giveaways. You know, just to keep everybody excited about these podcasts.
It's like offering chocolate milk at the running for school president at every meal.
Except for Carl, we'll give away some Ensure for Carl. Keep your bones nice and strong.
Or and a packet
I'm
of
cracking up here because Beebs is just going to keep playing. She's like, look, I'm not done here.
I'm nearly level 20.
Oh my God. Yeah, this cracks me up.
I think I was almost able to solo that once. Around that level. Side note though, I think those little epic encounters are great. Nobody ever does them though. It's terrible.
I kind of miss them. Like, you remember the epic armor encounters and stuff when you had to get your, 100 of your closest friends together to try and get your epic armor.
Yeah, not like it was nowadays. I leveled another warden through, he was like level 45 and I was able to solo my last epic encounter.
Oh, did Beebs boot Vegemite?
No, I didn't.
Boo.
Okay, so the way this works for time code is I'm going to give you a keyword and everybody types it in chat. You have to type it exactly, don't use capitals or anything different. You'll be able to see it on screen. I'll give it about 60 to 70 seconds because of the Twitch delay. And then you have about the 60 seconds to type it, and then I'll do the roll for a winner. And if nobody claims it within about 45 seconds or so, I'll roll again. I just pasted that in chat as well, just in case. My accent is hard to make out.
Dang foreigners.
Oh, thanks. Okay, everyone get ready. The keyword is... DAOC. So everyone in chat who wants to be able a chance to win a 1 month time code, type DAOC.
Oh, someone spelt it wrong. Lex, type it again. There you go.
I got it. Excellent.
Our chances would have been better.
Snoop is banned from taking part. It's about 30 seconds gone, so still loads of time. Okay, and so about another 10 seconds. Exclamation mark DAOC all small letters. Okay, and stop. And I'm gonna roll.
Hammer time.
Okay, congrats to Nazo. Say something in chat, Nazo. Yay! Okay, you're in RC, just send me a message in RC and I'll get it, yeah. So that was excellent. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for putting this together. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
It was fun. It allowed me to QQ about Wardens for about half an hour.
Matt, I don't know if this came up, but why do you have 8 Wardens?
Do you not?
He loves the class.
But 8?
I'm actually getting the Warden class emblem tattooed on my forearm. I absolutely love this class.
Okay, I saw that on post count. You need to go to a professional tattoo person. That was just sad. That was sad.
I am. Hey, Luvly, don't judge me.
Before you go to
Hey,
professional
I have
person.
no problems with tats at all, but, you know, get them done by somebody good.
Yeah.
And before you do that, try and do some sort of like Kickstarter or something to like get some people to crowdfund your tats, man. Seriously.
I'm gonna be doing a lot more. A couple of them DAOC themed, but for now, I'm just working small. But I mean, it's fun. I played this game for like 15 years. I mean, I'm gonna have to keep some kind of commemoration for it.
There you go. Who is it? Chris Nunez or Oliver Peck? Do a Kickstarter, get money, go see one of those guys, get an awesome tattoo. Boom.
Yeah, and video it, and then come back and show us.
I'm gonna make 4 threads on post count about it.
Hey, Lovely, could we have a special credit edition right now? I want to ask something.
A special credit edition?
Yeah,
What's
you
that?
know, like the after credits a movie, you get a little bonus clip.
Oh.
But all right, I'm gonna throw the question out because do you think it's possible in the near future that new class race combos will be released?
New class race combos. You know what? I don't think so, and I'll tell you why. Are we still on, or did we hang up?
No, we're still live.
Still going.
Okay. I don't think that is really easy to do for some reason. I don't think it's an easy thing to do. Do you mean redoing one that you have, or doing new ones altogether?
No, I mean like like they did a year ago with Alpha Animist and stuff like that. Just new class race combos like Vulkyn, Valkyrie.
Oh,
Silver
okay.
Ranger.
I thought you meant like if you didn't like the one you had. I made a Highlander cleric because somebody told me I should do that, and I would kill to be able to become a Briton. That would be cool, actually. I think that would be fun. You have to be really careful, though, because of some of the stats that you can put into certain class race combos that could make it super OP, right?
Well, I made a post about this, like, no more Lurkings, because that's all Hibernia is right now. And, like, no Troll, Furbolg, Stealthers, stuff like that. And no Archers either, that could be Troll or Furbolg, half Ogre.
See, I kind of get where he's going with this. I think it'd be awesome because lore actually does allow for a couple of more class race combinations. Avalonian Reavers could work. Elf Heroes could work, because, Lug is an Elf Hero. I think we could, I think we could do this. Vulkyn Shamans, because the Vulkyn are a tribal race.
And Vulkyn Valkyrie, because the only good Vulkyn tank right now is a Savage and maybe a Thane. And there's really very little selection with the Valkyrie.
Hey, the more pimp limps we can get out there, the happier I'll be.
That's what I mean, man. That's my race. And Sylvan is also
You said you did a thread on that?
Yeah, I made a post about it, just some suggestions that would fit, and not like, overpowered class race combos.
Incarnate Wizards.
That's already out there. What are you talking about?
Oh, right.
I want to thank everybody again. I'm going to go ahead and sneak out, but before I did, I was just wondering if there might be an update on the 8v8 podcast.
The 8v8 one, I think, is this coming Wednesday night. We'll be talking...
Okay, fantastic.
8v8, how classes are balanced in terms of 8v8. And probably some other stuff, known Joel.
Great, that sounds great. I'll see you guys then. And,
what time's that one? Is that the same start time, Beeps?
Yeah, 8 p.m. EST, I think, or 8:30 for EST. Okay. Yeah, daylight savings for the US happened in Canada. Happened this weekend, but not for Europe, not for another couple of weeks. So just remember that.
Fantastic, guys. See you on Wednesday.
Bye-bye.
Okay, I'm gonna... Sorry, mate. I'm gonna turn the stream off. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Don't forget the podcast, 8 p.m., 8:30. I'll have a Facebook and a podcast and say it in game as well first. So, yeah. Thanks, everyone, for coming out and for everyone on the podcast. That was great.
It was fun. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I think this was very productive compared to the Archer podcast and a couple of the other ones.
I kind of feel bad, though, because we did kind of interrupt Hadley a little bit. I kind of felt bad for